Welcome to this podcast of Verbonden. This is the third part of the conversation with Samuel Holcman, and this time it's about how to succeed in convincing people, which of course involves soft skills. But we were also speaking about how to speak with confidence. Do you want to sharpen your skills as an enterprise architect? Welcome to Verbonden, the podcast where we combine insights from experienced professionals with real-world examples from the world of architecture. My name is Elise Luijks and I am your guide through the layers of enterprise architecture, making it less mythical and more concrete. I would like to actually move on to another topic. I think it's close to both of our hearts. Soft skills. I saw that you are hosting a website on soft skills for architects, and I'm aiming to get to know you and the intention. Why or what reason did you start this? Where was the pain that you saw? And what was the actual trigger? What was the day? What happened? And then you said, "I'm starting a website on soft skills for architects."
Okay. All right. Yes, it was very painful. It wasn't painful. It was actually during my education. And after I completed my second engineering degree, I saw myself not making the impact that I thought I should. Personal, nothing outside. I said, why am I not making the impact? There's such good stuff here. Mm-hmm. And I realized it was about my ability to communicate that good stuff, those good things. Communicate those good things. It wasn't just the good things. It was the communication of those good things. So during my early years, what I did formally was get a third degree in business administration. And that's as I say, the other side of the brain. Mm-hmm. There is some analytical, but it is more about essentially communicating. So that was the early days. So then professionally, for quite some time, we were practicing enterprise architecture. And what I was seeing in our clients and the people that came out of our classes was the inability to explain what they did. Now, I'm not talking about explaining what they did to other architects, but explain other things to stakeholders. And so one of our assignments many years ago was for the Walt Disney Companies. And the Walt Disney Companies have a Disney University, where they teach many, many different skills. But Disney is world renowned for their ability to essentially satisfy human things. They are very, very, very good. And it even begins with names. So for example, you and I are called guests. The people working for Disney are called cast members. So the image is you and I are being entertained by cast members. Now, we may think that is just subtle. No. Language and words have meaning, and I'm going to continue on that for just a moment, just a minute. But let me finish this thought here. While we were working at Disney, we were teaching at Disney University architecture also. Disney contracted with us to do essentially, architecture training for their staff. And in one of the classrooms near us was this person teaching soft skills to the employees of Disney. And one afternoon, I met him in the hallway, and we're chatting about those things. So I went through the course, And I said, boy, do we need this. Not just EAs, with all due respect, but technology people. And I'll emphasize a little bit more on that. So make a long story short, this gentleman retired from Disney, and I said to him, you're coming to work for us. And you're going to build a course on soft skills for architects. Not teach them how to do models, not teach them how to do harvesting or enterprise architecture, but how to express to other people what they have done. It begins with a couple of words. Please remember what I mentioned to you. Disney calls you and I guests, and what they call themselves, the internal is cast members. Okay. Now, there's a term in technology that we need to ban. We need to eliminate it from our vocabulary, and that is the word user. Now, I'm going to use a little bit of humor with a little bit of seriousness to give you an understanding of why this is so important in soft skills. Here's a little uncomfortable, but I think you'll understand. There are two professions that use the term user for the people that pay for the service. One is the illicit drug trade, and the other is IT. And the pathway is we get them hooked. We charge them more and more for less product. It may sound funny, but I'm very serious. The word user is a dependency term. And IT people get this in their head. Words have meaning. That these people are dependent upon me. And that's one of the biggest issues why EA and IT people do not have a seat at the executive table. It is rare. Think about it in organizations. It is rare that an IT person or an EA person is sitting in the decision-making room. And one of the reasons is because what we're producing is not human consumable. Okay. And so part of it is our own belief in that word user, that these people they can't do everything is IT. They can't do anything without us. Well, that type of attitude puts us in a position of not being heard.
Yeah.
So how do we do this? So that led us to educating, teaching, and we have a workshop just like we do for enterprise architecture on teaching people the soft skills of communication, meetings, and also, as I mentioned to you, what can a human being understand? In other words, they have to represent things in a human consumable manner without regard to what the tool is going to do or what people believe. So the course talks about and provides those additional skills to people. There's no modeling skills in there. It's about how to present and how to recognize the things that you have and communicate that to others. It's a very, very powerful augmentation to people. Now, there are very few people. If you have 100% of people, a small percentage recognize that they need that because people believe that skill, I already have that skill. I know how to talk. I know how to do this. Unfortunately, it's not the case. And so what we have to recognize is our own strengths and weaknesses. We all have them. And say, am I going to do something to add skills on that side of the equation? And it's funny because when people go through this course, it's not just about EA people. It's about, I'm going to say this, about communicating with other human beings and recognizing how to do that. Now, the course is designed on purpose for people that have gone through enterprise or business architecture, education, and training, and technology-based people, because the people have those skills. But frankly, most of the people that come to that course are not very comfortable in a, quote, human environment. Not they don't like people, but they're uncomfortable in presentations. Earlier in the week, we had a class this week, by the way, in business architecture, and part of our workshop, we asked the business architect present. And we, by the way, we don't surprise anybody. We call it a workshop, not a seminar. And part of the workshop is they present their work to me. I'm their stakeholder. Okay. And in the beginning of the week, we don't hide it. We tell people ahead of time. It's not just sitting at your desk on a computer. You are going to present your results. On Monday was very different than on Wednesday.
Yeah.
In other words, people started getting a little bit more comfortable in the presenting style. On Monday, everybody was mumbling a little bit because they were nervous. I don't judge anyone. I don't judge anyone.
And on Tuesday, they know that I didn't die yesterday, so I'll probably not die today.
That's
I'm just
correct.
gonna do it.
Yeah.
And practice
and a little bit
makes
more
perfect.
confidence. Build a little bit more confidence. And so it all started, as I said, with the recognition that part of it is communication. It doesn't matter how good the models are, so to speak. If you can't get the attention of the people, you're not going to get anywhere. And that's why I said part of it is recognizing, again, what a human being, can understand. Most EAs right now build things for other architects, not for the stakeholders. And so we're, again, talking about adding skills. We're not yelling at anybody. It's adding skills because that's the end audience. That's the end audience, that we have. Think about, again, I love to tell people to think about the analogies. You walk into a restaurant, okay? The first person you meet is hopefully someone with a smile and a greeter, okay? Now, do they have the skills to make a gourmet meal? Probably not. Okay? Then you sit down and someone comes over and interacts with you on your desires. The experts in the back of the room you never see. Okay. Okay. All right. Now, there are every once in a while the cooks or the chefs that have a wonderful personality and you tend to see them on television. Why do you see them on television? Because they know how to communicate. They know how to make the meals, but they also know how to communicate. But most chefs and cooks are in the back room. This is what we try to explain to EAs. It's not the skill of making the chocolate cake or the meal. It's presenting the meal, so to speak. It's having that other skill, that additional skill to be able to essentially interact with that. You and I had mentioned scuba diving. One of our favorite places to scuba dive is in Bonaire. And there's an Italian restaurant there called Capriccio's. And the Italian restaurant is run by a husband and wife team. The wife tends to be in the front, okay, and the husband is the head chef. But Andreas, when he does see us and we enjoy it, he comes running out and gives us a big hug. Okay? You know what that does? It
makes you feel welcome.
Value. Huh?
Yeah. It makes you feel welcome. Yeah.
Right.
Brings in
Wanted,
value.
welcome. Please come back. Okay? how many EA's hugs have we seen? We usually hear, go away, go away. Now, part of it isn't just his meal, okay? It's that human side of that. And I'm not suggesting we have to hug everybody, don't get me wrong, but it's recognizing that the human interaction, especially for EAs, let me go a little further. What you and I have to recognize is that we are being invited in to their world, their enterprise or business world. We're being invited in. We have to be good guests. Mm-hmm. The problem is, if we keep thinking that those people are users, it's a different picture in our mind. Mm-hmm. But if we think them as stakeholders or customers, okay, that we have to satisfy, we're being invited into their organization. And therefore, there's a bit of, I'll use the phrase kindness, or recognizing, if I can be a little bit more direct, they're the boss. Mm-hmm. They're the boss. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, one final point about the chef and the meal that I tell EAs. If the customer doesn't like the meal for whatever reason, and the chef comes out and says, now look, I followed the recipe exactly. Mm-hmm. Okay. In other words, I followed the methodology exactly. I used the right pans and the right pot, and you don't like the food?
It's due to the methodology. Yeah.
Methodology madness, model madness. But if you don't like the end result, it doesn't matter if you follow the script, because you're not in charge. I say that to EA people and they don't like it. Mm-hmm. But we're not in charge. We are. My mission, our mission is to help the business run better. Yeah. That's what I think is fun. Mm-hmm. And every once in a while, if I get invited to get accolades or things like that, of course, we all want recognition that's positive. Okay. Mm-hmm. Fun stuff.
I heard you in the example of doing the presentation. I heard you say a very important word, which is confidence. We were talking about language, and for me, what I see a lot is there are a lot of people who are not able to communicate, and mostly I see in them very insecure person. Right. And it also depends on what I'm actually now, or the past few months, experimenting with. I did something wrong. I'm replacing it with I'm learning something. Last week there was a Tony Robbins seminar, and he also makes that point very clear, that the language that you use, it will transform insecurity to self-confidence, to trust in yourself. Yeah. And that's also when we learn to not feel, when a person is not insecure, they're actually at that point able to interact and to listen to what the other person at the table is telling them. It's not the reference as we were talking about before, but it's, I can be wrong. I might be wrong. Then I will learn, and I'm happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The other thing that makes you confident is practice. And so one of my favorite bands to see is the Rolling Stones. Now, Martin Scorsese did a miniseries, essentially a television program about the Rolling Stones. And everybody knows Mick Jagger, and he's up there on stage and going, all these other things. And what they showed, now he's in his early 80s, and he's done, I don't know how many shows, but they showed him essentially practicing. People think that those are random moves he's doing. He's in front of a mirror with the music playing, practicing every one of those moves that are there. That's why it looks natural. EA people, you've got to practice this.
Mhm.
It's more than taking an exam. You got to practice this, and you got to practice presenting. So, as I said, you watch him and you think that this is all random. One of the most famous golfers here in the United States, Tiger Woods. He hasn't done so well lately, but again, in some of his early, some of the things that he was talking about, he practices hitting 700 golf balls a day. And behind him is a coach watching him. Now, the coach isn't as good as him, but the coach can explain to him, move this way or move that way. 700 golf balls a day he hits. Why? The more natural it becomes, the more better you are. It's all about practice.
Mm.
Well beyond an exam, well beyond the theory, you've got to go out there and do it. So
Yeah.
the confidence is built by two things. One, you understand the area, but you're also confident in your results, and you're confident in the way that you're presenting this.
Mm.
And not everyone's going to be happy. We know this. We
Mm.
know this. And as you said, you learn different things.
Mm.
And I get, as you can tell in our conversation, I talk about a lot of other people a lot. And that's because there's very wise people out there. They're not IT people or EA people possibly, but we can use them as examples of these types of things. You're talking about Tony Robbins. I don't think he knows how to do EA. I don't think he knows how to spell EA. It doesn't matter. What he's saying is about essentially a universal topic. So coming full circle, that's why we developed the soft skills course. Okay.
Mhm.
To get
Yeah.
people to recognize that there's another part of the equation that is possibly even more important. Now, of course, the architecture has to be correct, but if it's sitting in somebody's drawer somewhere, it's not going to help very much. So it's in that presentation.
Yeah. I think that's a very important takeaway to for people who are listening to this conversation is to find ways to practice. Um, I would like to ask you a question also about you because you're a person who likes to keep on learning. And what do you think in the near future you will focus on for yourself?
Well, wow. Um, what we focus on in our company every day is three words: faster, better, cheaper. Faster, better, cheaper. So faster. When we first did our first enterprise architecture assignment in the early 70s, it was a 1-year cycle. Our enterprise architecture cycle now is 6 elapsed weeks. Let me point out something. Enterprise architecture never ends. Enterprise architecture ends when the enterprise ceases to change. This is another myth. Architecture leads change. Documentation occurs after the change is made. EA is not documentation.
Mm-hmm.
EA leads change, so it's constantly going. So it's a 6 elapsed weeks, by the way. If it's 10 weeks, it's okay, but it's not 6 years. Faster, better. How can we produce more human consumable things for the enterprise? That's the better part. We're constantly learning what people can absorb and what types of styles they like. Cheaper, how can we do this essentially at less cost for the organization?
Mm.
When you're building a 100-story building, for example, the average cost of the architecture is between 2 and 5% of the budget. Okay, get you an idea. It's not zero. Okay, so when we talk to organizations, we tell them, that, and I don't know what people's numbers are, but it's not zero, but it's not 90%. Okay, of the budget. So we have to look at these things faster. In other words, how do we address the continual change that's going on better? How do we get things in front of people that are easier to understand? And of course, less cost. So every morning when I get up, I move forward. Now, the other thing I've been doing more and more of is podcasts, webinars, 5-minute briefs. And recently I put out my second book. It happened to be on business architecture. Writing books is very painful, very painful. But I felt I had to, and the only way to do that is to dedicate time. You've got 24 hours in the day. As far as I know, there isn't any more. And you just have to say, I'm going to spend this time doing this book. I'm going to work on it until it's complete. And that's what I'm going to do, as I move forward. Am I going to go into other fields? No. There's so much that we can do here. This field is just getting started. You and I are moving from the industrial age through the internet age into the information age. And the key to the information age, notice what I said, we're moving out of the internet age, which is where technology was, to the information age. The information age is where you and I as EAs are going to be critical. So this is just beginning. And that's what's exciting.
I think so too. Well, it was lovely to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure. You can probably tell that I have a little bit of passion about this, and I truly hope you and your audience do get at least one thing here they say it was worth listening to. If they have two, it'd be wonderful. But that's my objective in speaking with you. And thank you for inviting me, to your podcast.
Thank you for listening to the end of the conversation with Samuel Holcman. Please subscribe to the podcast because I'm not alone in this, and this will help us to keep on going. The podcast was produced by Pieter-Jan Rombouts, and the music is produced by Leonard Busset. See you in the next conversation.